Have you ever wondered why she never texts you first yet she never disappears either? She replies, but she won't initiate. She stays in your life, but never steps forward. For most men, that pattern feels confusing, frustrating, almost like a puzzle they can't solve. But what if her silence isn't random at all? What if it's telling you something about her mindset? And something even more important about yours? The truth is, when a woman never reaches out first, she's revealing a dynamic most men completely miss. And unless you respond the right way, you'll keep chasing while she keeps drifting. Today, I'm giving you 6 powerful shifts, subtle psychological shifts, that don't just change her behavior, they change your position in the entire dynamic. And before we go any deeper, I want you to pause for a moment. Really think about this. Have you ever found yourself doing more, giving more, reaching out more, just to keep something from falling apart? And before we continue, if this already feels a little too real, take a second, hit like on this video, and tell me in the comments, have you ever been in a situation where you were the only one putting in effort? I read those, and I want to understand your story too. My name is Sarah Jones, and I'm here to help you see the emotional patterns most people never even realize they're trapped in. Now let's go deeper, because this is where things start to shift. Most men think the problem is her behavior, but the real issue isn't that she's not texting first. The issue is what you've been doing in response to that silence. Because every time you rush in to fill the gap, every time you send that good morning just to keep things alive, you're unknowingly shaping the entire dynamic. You're teaching her that she doesn't need to show up because you always will. Let me give you a simple but powerful example. Imagine a man who wakes up every morning and checks his phone. Nothing. No message from her. There's a slight discomfort in his chest, so he texts first. She replies hours later, short, distant, polite. The next day, he does it again, and again, and again. Without realizing it, he's built a routine where she invests nothing, yet still receives his attention daily. Psychologically, this creates what we call a low-effort reward loop. When someone receives emotional attention without needing to earn it, their brain stops associating effort with value. In simple terms, she doesn't initiate because she doesn't have to. And this is where your first shift begins. You have to stop rewarding her silence. Not out of anger, not to punish her, but to protect your own value. Because attention, your attention, is a form of emotional currency. And when you give it away freely to someone who hasn't invested anything, it loses its weight. Now I want you to think about this honestly. When was the last time you felt genuinely excited about something that was always available? Always predictable? Always guaranteed? Probably never. Because human psychology is wired to value what feels meaningful. And meaning comes from effort, from uncertainty, from emotional investment. So instead of reacting to silence, learn to sit in it. Let it exist. Let her feel the difference between having access to you and not. And here's where it gets even more important. The second shift is about matching her energy. Not more, not less, exactly what she gives you. And I know this is where a lot of men struggle, because it feels unnatural. You think, if I care, shouldn't I show it more? But here's the truth most people won't tell you. Overgiving doesn't build attraction. But here's the truth most people won't tell you. Overgiving doesn't build attraction. It creates imbalance. Imagine a man sending multiple texts throughout the day, checking in, sharing things, trying to stay connected. Meanwhile, she replies once, maybe twice, with minimal effort. Now, instead of stepping back, he doubles down. He thinks consistency will win her over. But from her perspective, it doesn't feel like confidence. It feels like pressure. It feels like someone trying too hard. And attraction doesn't grow in pressure. It grows in balance. Connection is like a dance. If one person is doing all the moving, it stops being a dance. It becomes effort. And effort, when it's one-sided, becomes exhausting. So matching her energy isn't about playing games. It's about self-respect. It's about saying, I will meet you where you meet me, not chase you where you don't show up. And here's the fascinating part. When you start doing this, one of two things happens. She either steps forward or she fades, and both outcomes are clarity. Now let's go deeper, because this is where things start to shift. Something that most men don't even realize is happening to them. The third shift, reclaiming your emotional control. There's a moment you've probably experienced. You send a message, and then you wait. And wait, and wait. You check your phone. You tell yourself you're not anxious, but your behavior says otherwise. When she replies, you feel relief. When she doesn't, your mood drops. And without realizing it, your emotional state is no longer yours. It's tied to her responses. This is one of the most dangerous psychological positions you can be in. Because the moment your emotions depend on someone else's attention, you lose your center, and women feel this. Not consciously, not analytically, but emotionally. They sense when a man is grounded in himself and when he's seeking validation. So let me ask you something directly. How often has your mood changed just because she didn't reply? This is where you take your power back. Her response is information, not validation. It tells you where she stands. It does not define your worth. When you truly understand that, something shifts inside you. You stop waiting. You stop checking. You start living your life again, focused, grounded, present. And ironically, that's when your energy becomes attractive again. Now here comes the fourth shift, and this one changes everything. Let absence do the work. Most men are afraid to pull back because they think they'll lose her. But what they don't realize is, they're already losing themselves by staying overly available. When you're always there, always texting, always checking in, she never gets the chance to feel your absence. And without absence, there's no appreciation. Think about it this way. Even your favorite food becomes boring if you eat it every single day. Not because it changed, but because the experience did. The same applies to attention. When you're constantly present, your presence loses impact. But when you create space, something powerful happens. She starts to notice. Absence doesn't push the right person away. It reveals who was never really there. And if she doesn't, then you've just uncovered the truth you were avoiding. Now let's go even deeper into clarity. The fifth shift is about testing her interest. Because there's a very specific situation that confuses men the most. When she doesn't initiate, but she still responds just enough to keep you engaged. This creates what we call an emotional gray zone. You're not sure if she's interested, or just comfortable receiving attention. And as long as you keep initiating, you'll never know the truth. So here's what you do. You step back, not dramatically, not emotionally. So here's what you do. You step back, not dramatically, not emotionally, just enough to observe. You stop being the first to text. You stop carrying the conversation, and then you watch. Does she reach out? Does she notice your absence? Does she make any effort to reconnect? Because her actions will tell you everything her words never will. And this is where many men have a painful realization. If it only exists when you're doing all the work, it was never real. But that realization is not a loss, it's freedom. And finally, the sixth shift. The one that ties everything together. And finally, the sixth shift. The one that ties everything together. Raising your standards. Because at some point the question is no longer, why isn't she texting first? The real question becomes, why am I accepting this dynamic at all? When you tolerate low effort, you normalize it. You train yourself to believe that this is what connection looks like, but it's not. A healthy connection doesn't leave you guessing. It doesn't make you feel like you have to earn basic attention. It doesn't force you to question your value. And I want you to really sit with this. Are you holding on to her because she's right for you? Or because you're afraid of losing her? Because those are two very different things. When you raise your standards, something powerful happens. You stop chasing and start choosing. You stop proving and start observing. And the right woman, she won't make you question her interest. She'll meet you naturally, effortlessly, consistently. Now, before we close, I want to say this clearly. This isn't about controlling her behavior. This is about understanding yours. Because the moment you stop chasing silence and start choosing self-respect, you become a different man. If you want to go deeper into these psychological dynamics, subscribe to the Female Signals. Because here, we don't just talk about attraction, we decode it. And if this video made you reflect, even for a second, then don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. And I want to hear from you. Have you ever dealt with a woman who never initiated but never fully left either? What did you do and what did you learn? Because your story might help someone else see what they've been missing. But the real issue isn't that she's not texting first. And finally, the sixth shift. The one that ties everything together, raising your standards.